Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is import the free sample model from Evermotion, and I'd really recommend checking out the flower collection from their website, as the quality is really high. So we're going to file import and import the OBJ. So we need to do a little bit of cleanup to get this working for us. I think I'll delete the second model, so you can see there's two different groups here, or two different pieces of geometry. We'll delete the second one. On the first one, I'll shift right click and separate. So we're separating all those pieces of geometry. So there's a lot of them, but the good thing is that they're sort of conveniently packed in order. So the first one is our stem, and the next load are our leaves. So I'll just keep going. So I'm just sort of shift selecting until I've selected them all. Keep going. And I'm just going to make sure I've not got anything selected at the top, like that. Yeah, that's looking fine. Shift, right click and combine. Call these leaves, and the rest of them we can combine together. So I believe there's some pieces of geometry in here that have maybe different colors, but I just colored all of this in using one texture. So I'll shift right click and combine that. So we now have three pieces of geometry. So these will be called our petals. I'll select our three pieces of geometry and go to edit, delete by type, history to get rid of all those groups. We'll take this out of the original group, delete the old group. So we just got three pieces of geometry there. I got a file, export selection, and I think I'll put this in my cache folder. So OBJ, we can put it in, we'll save it as table flower, so you can see that I've done it there. So now all of this geometry is packed into one OBJ. I'll drop down a geometry node, rename it to table flower, jump inside, drop down a file swap. We'll import our table flower, transform it down to the correct scale. So we'll divide by 100 as we're coming from Maya. And once we've done this, we need to unpack this OBJ. So we have three different groups. So our leaves, our stem, and our petals. So the way we do this in Houdini is a little bit different to Maya. So in Maya, we did the, we selected the object, we went to shift, right click, and separate. So it's a little bit more confusing in Houdini, but all you need to know is there are three nodes to get this job done. So the first one is a connectivity SOP. The second one is a partition. And the third one is a delete SOP. And with those three nodes, we can unpack our OBJ. So we'll plug this in. We don't need to do anything with the connectivity SOP. So the attribute can be class. We can run over points. We pipe this into our partition SOP. And in here, what we want to do in this rules section is say @group underscore backtick, name of the attribute, which is class, so you can see it here, and we're running over primitives. So if we pipe this into a delete SOP now and delete non-selected, you see everything's disappeared. And then from this group drop down, you'll see we have different groups in here. So these are the groups we want the poly surface. So here you can see we've got our stem. We can grab our leaves, and we can grab our petals. So I'll remove the selections from these. View this. We'll grab our leaves. And here we will grab our petals. drop down a merge, pipe them all into a merge, and then we've got our flower back. And you're probably thinking, well, why did you unpack that OBJ to ultimately do the same thing to bring it all back into one? Well, what this has allowed us to do is create materials or shaders for each object. And before we couldn't have done that. So now we can create 3 different materials and apply them on this level here. So we won't be applying the material here. We'll be applying materials on this level. And if there is a material SOP at this level, this will override any material applied on the upper level here. So that's all the boring preppy stuff out of the way with. Let's crack on and do some look deving. We'll drop down a material network. We'll call this table flower. Looks like I've already got a material network with this name. Oh, there you go. Actually, it's not. It's because we need to call it mat. Jump inside, drop down an RS material, and the first one we're going to do is the stem, I think. Drop down an RS texture. And this will be our albedo map. So we're going to browse for that. So that's in Digital Assets. I put this in Models, Plants 01. So you guys can download this free sample from Evermotion. Jump inside. Grab the stem. So we've got petals or stalk. There you go. So there's our stalk. Just checking through this to make sure I'm not missing anything here. And we will pipe this into the albedo. Plug this into a redshift material. Call it stem out. And what I'm about to show you, sort of shading the stem, leaves and petals, using these methods, you can apply it to more or less all of the flowers in their collection, which is really nice and easy. The next one will be, actually I think we'll apply this material here first, and we'll just work through it that way. So we'll jump inside. Remember, we're not going to be applying anything on the upper level. We're going to be doing it here. So we'll apply it in the material slot. So table flower. Like that. We could also just view the stem on its own as well. We'll open up the Redshift render view. Just scale that down a moment. So we've got something looking very basic there. So it's not too impressive. So I think we'll just zoom in a little bit. Looks more like a plastic straw. So jump inside, slide the roughness up, I think to around, I don't know, around 2.2 to 0.3. I think that should be fine. We also want to add some, I think maybe some subsurface scattering, I think. I think we can add some backlighting as well, so we'll add this same one to the translucency color and then just pump the way up just a little bit, so you can see there we're getting a nice result. Some light coming through the back there, and I think actually that'll be fine. We'll keep that one nice and simple. So it's not really much more than that. You can add a bump map. So I don't think it comes with a bump map, but you can apply this in the bump map slot. I'd like to check out this texture though, and I'd like to see what it actually looks like and if there's any detail, or is it just a gradient map. Wait for him to pop up. Yeah, so it's just a gradient map, so there's not much we can do with that. I don't think we have a normal map either, so we got the petals, leaves, and the center. No, so we don't have a normal map, unfortunately, so there's not a great deal we can do with that. Our next material will be our leaves. Pipe that into, we'll just copy this one, pipe that in there, leaves. GGX, and make sure we got GGX ticked here as well. Let's apply that material. Let's refresh that. Okay. Jump back inside. Let's have a mess around with this now. So this should get a little bit more interesting. So we'll grab leaf 01. Let's check out what they look like. So we've got two different versions here. So we've got that version, and we've also got leaf 2. And I think I prefer leaf 2. So we're going to use leaf 2. Just undo that. Plug him in. Looks like that. We'll increase the roughness to about, I don't know, 0.3, somewhere around that value. So that's already looking cool. I think we will just have a little bit of a mess around with the color. So I'm not liking it. It's too blue. The green is too blue. So I think we'll push this more towards like a yellowy kind of color. I think my region render is actually broken. So that's not working, unfortunately. So I'm just going to hue shift this. I think maybe somewhere around that level. I think that looks a little bit better. A little bit more natural there. Let's take a snapshot. So 331. Yeah, I think that looks a little bit more natural to me. Let's import the reflection map. I usually don't change the specular map. I usually only mess with the or change the roughness map. So we'll check out this texture. I want to see what it looks like. Okay, I think we can use that in the roughness knot. Let's plug him in to the reflection roughness. It's actually giving quite a nice effect. RS change range. We'll plug him into leaves out. Just want to see what that looks like. I like to keep the contrast in the roughness maps. So you can add like, you know, a little bit of contrast, just a touch. So like I said, I usually add contrast using the old range min or range max. And if I want values between a certain range, so let's say for example, the minimum roughness this should be is like maybe like 0.1 or 0.2, so it doesn't get too shiny, and the max roughness is 1. So what I can do here is just say, you know, 0.2 there. So we still got the contrast in the map. So I think that's looking kind of cool. We definitely need a bump map to bring this detail out. So RS normal map. And we'll plug in the normal. Overall, take a snapshot, plug him in. to there, and that's really helping. That looks really cool. Yep, that's adding some nice detail there. I'd also like to subdivide these leaves. I can kind of see that they're stepping a little bit, so we will add a subdivide stop after the delete stop. So subdivide, and we're just going to subdivide this once. We'll take a snapshot so we can see the result. Subdivide, plug him in, and we'll see what happens. There you go. So you can also see why we're unpacking that geometry, so we get a little bit more control. Maybe we don't want to subdivide every single object. Maybe we just want to do it to the leaves. So that's another good reason to separate it. Okay, let's have a mess around with the translucency or backlighting. Make it feel a little bit more organic. So translucency. Put this in the color slot, and then we're just going to lift up. I'll take a snapshot and then lift up on the weight. So it looks like the translucency map is a little bit too blue. So we'll just copy and paste this. I'll take a snapshot and copy and paste the RS color correct. Put them in, and that's definitely looking a little bit more natural. It's even matching the colors of the grass better. Okay, so I think that's looking pretty cool. We could move on now and tackle the petals. So I'll drop down an RS material. This will be petals. Pipe this into a redshift material and call this petals out. We'll jump up a level, jump inside, and I've also done the same. So we'll apply a subdivide to the petals, just with one depth, just to increase the resolution just a little bit, so a little bit smoother. Select our petals out. Hit render. Make sure the camera's locked and move in so we can see it a little bit better. Let's drop down an RS texture to import our petal texture. So number 3. Let's plug that in. So that's looking pretty vibrant. So what we could do is drop down an RS color correct, and we can just drop down the saturation just a touch. May need to do that a little bit more. It's also increased the roughness, so the petals aren't so shiny. Yeah, I think something around 0.4 is fine. So we're still getting a little bit of a highlight on the edge at the glancing angle, so it's not looking completely flat. Let's import a translucency map. We'll plug him in. Translucency color. Put the weight up. Looks like this is way too strong, so it's very, very vibrant. We'll do exactly the same here. Copy and paste. The desaturate. I think we'll do it even more. Go down to about 0.7. And color looks like it's very pink, so we're just gonna look at the flat color. Yeah, looks very pink. Just change the hue, so it's more of like a sort of bluey purpley color. I think something around that is fine. Just looking at what the saturation is doing here. So we're losing a little bit of detail when we're dropping that saturation down. Yeah, I think somewhere around there is fine. That'll be okay. Let's also check out the color of the albedo map. That's very pink. So we'll do the same. So it goes more of like a purpley color. Let's plug them in. These petals can actually be pink as well. So if you prefer the pink look, then go for that. Yeah, I think that's a nice color. Let's put this all the way up to 1 so I can see the effect. So yeah, I think somewhere around 0.4 is nice. You want to be fairly subtle with that. Let's drop down an RS normal map. Import our normal map. So we've got our petals normal. Let's plug him in. And you can see that really adds a lot of detail there. Breaks up the reflection. Yeah, that's looking really cool. I like it. And just remember to add a subdivide sop after the delete sop for the petals. So they're not sort of stepping and they're nice and smooth. Okay, so that's not looking bad. I think we can improve this a little bit more. Let's try adding some subsurface scattering. So here I'm going to select the color around there and I'm going to slide it down so it's a little bit whiter. We'll increase the amount to about 0.1. And I'm going to make sure that we have subsurface scattering ticked here, otherwise it's not going to render. So make sure you got that turned on. I'm going to drop the radius scale down as well to something like 0.1. So we're saying that this object is smaller. Or not very thick. So I think that's definitely getting there. That looks kind of cool. Have a play around with backlighting a little bit. And it just looks very, very saturated. This looks almost like alien, these kind of colors. So just be careful of that. Just gonna have a mess around with the radius scale, see where we're at. I think that's looking really cool. I think that looks nice. Take a snapshot. I'm going to turn subsurface off to compare. So I think it sort of adds just a little bit of softness to the flower. So without and with subsurface. We could maybe turn that back on and just drop the radius scale down to, I don't know, 0.5. And to make this a little bit faster, we can make this point based instead of ray traced. So that's looking pretty cool. Let's zoom out, see what we're looking like from a distance. Yeah, I think that's looking nice. The way the light is hitting and it's sort of, you're getting these nicer hot spots. That's looking really cool. I think the leaves look quite nice as well. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of nice backlighting happening here and a lot of bounce. Yeah, I think that's cool. I'm quite happy with that result. So with all of the other flowers, in the art models collection from Evermotion, I've more or less applied these same techniques to every single flower. So yeah, the texture maps will change, so just replace the texture maps, but you can more or less copy all three of these shaders over to another material network, update the texture maps, and just have a little bit of a mess around with the translucency and the subsurface, but you shouldn't have to change too many parameters. And that's the really cool thing about flowers, they're a lot easier than people think. So yeah, so we got a nice result from there, and it didn't take too long.